we have this chart to show us what we call perfect square numbers. And our perfect square numbers are the 1, 4, 9, 16, and so on. So when we take the square root of those numbers, they all come out to a rational number. We will eventually be finding the square roots of numbers that are not on this chart. That's going to be our goal today. Another way that you can tell it's a perfect square number is, think about if you have one square that is 1 by 1, what is the area of that? Or how do we get the area of a square? Do you remember? Yeah, the sides, length and width, 1 times 1 would give us that area of 1. If I have a square that's 2 by 2, my area is 4. If I have a square that's 3 by 3, my area is 9. And that's where our square numbers come in, because those square numbers actually will create the shape, the square. Okay? And so we'll be using these perfect square numbers to help us when we're estimating today. So I just wanted to point that out before we start. All right, so over on the next page here, page 10, we're going to estimate the square root of irrational numbers now. So numbers that are not on that chart, and we're only going to the nearest tenth place. Okay? We know those numbers are going to go on forever. They're going to be irrational. But I just want you to try to estimate to the 10th place today. Do the example and say we want to estimate now the square root of 15 to the nearest 10th place. Right. Now I know you guys can do this. We talked about doing it on the calculator. Right? We know where that symbol is. But without a calculator, I'm going to show you some steps, and it usually comes pretty close, since we're just going to the 10th place here. All right, so step 1. We're going to identify two perfect square numbers that 15 is going to fall between. And we're going to put these on a number line. So we're going to use that chart that you have. Figure out the two square numbers that 15 falls between. We'll put it on a number line. Okay, so we'll have this number line I'm trying to find the square root of 15, and I'm going to have the ends of my number line as the two perfect square numbers that 15 is in between. All right, so using your chart, what would those square roots be? So if you keep going down, square root of 15 is going to fall, what? It's going to be bigger than the square root of 9, but smaller than the square root of 16. So we're going to use that square root of 9 and square root of 16 for our range there on our number line. And just to think about, too, what is the square root of 9? 3. And the square root of 16 is 4. So when I take that square root of 15, I know it's going to be, I'm kind of already have a start here. I know it's going to be between 3 and 4, my answer. Okay, it's going to be bigger than 3, but less than 4. So it's going to be 3 point something, right? We got to figure out that something now. And if we wanted to, well, let's go ahead and put square root of 15 on here as well. It's going to be closer this way, isn't it? Closer to the square root of 16 here. All right, so to figure out that point something, we know it's 3 point something. Step 2, we're going to set up a ratio. And a ratio is a fraction, right? It has a numerator and a denominator. So to get the numbers for our numerator and our denominator, we're going to use this number line. And we're going to find the distance to go from 9 to 15. And that distance will be our numerator. So to go from 9 to 15, how many is that? 6. All right, so my numerator is 6. And then my denominator is from 9 to 16. Which is 7, yeah? So I have a fraction, and since I'm trying to come up with the decimal here, we got to use that dreaded long division to do figure out, well, what would this decimal be, approximately? So we can go ahead and figure that out. We'll set it up. Remember, the 6 falls in the inside. It's 6 divided by 7. 7 won't go into 6, but 7 does go into 60 how many times? 8. Because 8 times 7 is 56. We can subtract. 7 won't go into 4, but 7 does go into 40. How many times? 5. And I really only need to go to the 10th place. Okay, so I have enough information because I can do a little rounding here, right? I went over to the hundredths place just because I needed to know, is it going to stay 0.8 or do I need to round it up to 0.9? So I looked to that hundredths, it's 5 or higher. So what am I going to say? 0.9. I'm going to round it up. All right, so let's put this together for our estimate here. I knew that it was between 3 and 4. I know it's going to be 3 point, and then I'm using this, right? Okay, when we write this, we're going to say the square root of 15. Does anyone know what those mean? Kind of looks like an equal sign, but it's wavy. About or approximately, okay? And it's going to be approximately what? 3.9. We're going to round it up. And there we go. Yes, question?
So, the step 3 is rounding it? Or is there no step 3?
Step 3 is just writing our answer here. Right? Step 3 is putting it together as your estimate there. Okay? We'll do another one. You'll be all right. All right, and then think about it too. On your number line, the square root of 15 was pretty close to this side. It's pretty close to 4, right? So 3.9 makes sense. It's going to be pretty close that way. All right, and if we were to put it in the calculator, it's going to come out pretty close there. Because, well, the square root of 15 really is going to go on forever. We're just trying to come up with an estimate here to the 10th place. All right, let's try another one. I know this is new. All right, so let's say we're trying to find now the square root of 32. So we'll have our number line, and then I'm going to have those perfect square numbers on the end here. So this is where you use that chart. Where is 32 going to fall? What two numbers will it fall between when we're doing the square roots?
25 and 36.
Yeah, the square root of 25 and the square root of 36. So those are going to be how we start our number line here. And this gives you a start because I know it's going to be between, what is the square root of 25? 5. And the square root of 36 is 6. So I know this answer is going to fall between 5 and 6. It's going to be 5 point something. We just have to figure out that something now. All right, so 32, probably be a little bit more this way. We're going to set up that ratio here. So this is where we look for the distance that those numbers are apart, right? So to go from 25 to 32, that's going to be our numerator. What distance is that? 25 to 32? 7. And then from 25 to 36, that's your denominator. So to go from 25 to 36, that's 11. So we're going to use that 7/11 to come up with our estimate to the 10th place here. So if we go ahead and divide, 11 won't go into 7. but it will go into 70 how many times? 6 times. And why do I want to go one more over? Yeah, so I know how I'm going to round this. Am I going to keep it 0.6 or am I going to be rounding it up? Okay, so we don't have to go get the full decimals. Because we're just estimating here. Okay, if your decimal keeps going and going, you really can just go over to the hundredths place. Now this one, let's see what's going to happen. Because that would be 66, 4, 11 won't go into 4, but it does go into 40. 3 times, because that would give us 33. If we do our subtraction, that'll give us 7. And then, like I said, we don't have to keep going. Does anyone know what this is going to do, by the way? It's a repeating there. So when I write my estimate, I'm just going to go over to the hundredths place. Am I going to keep it 0.6 or am I going to be rounding it up? Keep it 0.6 because that's not 5 or higher in the hundredths place there. So I have enough information now. I can do my estimate of the square root of 32 to the 10th place. I know it's going to be between 5 and 6, so it's 5.6. Did that second example help you a little more? We need some more practice? All right, we'll do another one together. Let me get you guys the worksheet. We'll do one more. That way you'll have a start on today's assignment here. You guys want to, let's start one together. So you'll have a start on the worksheet here. Oh, thank you. And let's go ahead and try number 2 together. All right, so square root of 51. We're going to estimate to the nearest tenth. And you guys can keep out your notes, keep that chart out. What 2 perfect square numbers does that 51 fall between? Angelina?
49.
Yeah? So there's that square root of 49 that comes out to 7. And the square root of 64, that comes out to 8. So it's going to fall between those. So I can label that on my number line. So that gets you a start. You know, your estimate's going to be between 7 and 8. It's going to be 7 point something. All right, and then 51 is going to probably fall a little bit closer this way, right? All right, so we'll set up our ratio now to figure out what our tens place is going to be. So to go from 49 to 51, how many is that? 2. And from 49 to 64, 15. So there's our ratio, 2 over 15, so that we can get to that tens place. I can go ahead and set up my long division. 15 won't go into 2, but 15 does go into 20. How many times? Once. 1 times 15 is 15, and then if we subtract, we get 5. 15 won't go into 5. Down that 0. So 15 will go into 50 3 times, yeah? Because that's 45. And if we subtract, we'll see. Yep, so this is another repeating one here. And you can stop at the hundredths place anyways, because what are we going to do here with our 0.1? We're going to keep it stays the same, 0.1, because in the hundredths place, it's not 5 or higher. So when I do my estimate, the square root of 51 is approximately, and I do want you to write your answers out that way. So square root of 51 is approximately, yep, 7 and the 0.1. And we can also see that on our number line. It is closer to the 7. All right, how about you guys try number 1? And I'm going to come around, see how you're doing on that. If you need help, I'll be around, okay? And then we are finishing up this worksheet today, too.